going to be better given the situation. And so there's going to be some discussion here, and I don't know what the answer is going to be. We're going to do a little segment called Think, Pair, Share. So what I want you to do is, in just a second, I'm going to have you take 1 minute, and I'm going to have you think about a question I'm going to give you. And then after 1 minute, I'm going to have you pair up with somebody at your table, or maybe in some cases triple up, and discuss what you thought about. And then I'm going to have you share with all of us after you've had a chance to pair and compare, all right? So the question is this. Chase, you might want to get out your packet. For this one right here, number 1 on Unit 3, Day 4, for this one right here, of all the methods that we've learned, hey, if you're talking right now, you're not hearing me. I need you to hear me because you're going to get a chance to talk in a second. Of all the methods we've learned, which are graphing, substitution, or elimination, those are our 3 options. My question to you is, for number 1, what do you think would be the best way to solve the system? Graphing, substitution, or elimination. I want you to think about it. I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to talk. No talking. I don't want you to talk at all. I just want you to think about this. Look at the question. Think about it for about 1 minute. And then I'll have you talk. And then we'll all share together. Okay? So ready, set, 1 minute. Think about what you would believe the best method for this particular question would be. Please just think. You can write. You can close your eyes. You can open your eyes. I just want you to think. No questions yet. I just want you to think. Okay, so for the last minute we have not talked. Now I want you to talk to somebody or somebodies at your table and tell them what you think. Okay, ready, set, talk. Go. You could always ask Bray or Trevor or Kate a question. You guys been talking? Very.
Well, you can just do this. 5c minus 3d equals negative 5.
Substitution. Clearly circle substitution. Alright, so I would love, so now please, I would love for you to share out, some of you with the class, what you think is the right way to go and why. I mean, it's obviously just like a choice. We'd really like to hear why you decided what you decided. So who wants to share? Let's hear. Go ahead, Sasha.
I think substitution, because the problems outlined already, I mean, you could obviously manipulate the equation to get there, but for substitution, you can just make it so that c equals negative 9 plus d, and then you just solve the
Plus
equation.
D, you mean? Plus D?
Plus d.
Yeah.
And then you would plug it in, and then you get your answer.
So she has made a pretty strong case for substitution. Okay? Others, please share. There is not a right or wrong answer on this one. You can go either way. I would just want you to have a good reason for why you picked what you picked, right? I don't want you just to say, well, I don't know, so I just picked one. Pretty well said. Anybody have, yeah, Bree, what would you say?
I asked the substitution because it's not set up in a way that's convenient for elimination.
Why is it not convenient for elimination?
Because you have to get this 5c equals 3d minus 35.
Sure.
8 minus d equals negative 9, and you have to rearrange all of that.
there'd be some rearranging to be done, and you weren't a fan of that? Okay. So you like substitution? I know, I saw at least 2 people that did elimination. Would you mind, Anya did?
Thanks, Mike.
You thought it was elimination? There was at least one other person. I don't think that's a bad choice either. Anybody want to share why they thought elimination was the better way? Nobody wants to share. Do you want to share, Anya?
I just like subtracted 3D from that side and put it like on that side so it would like line up,
Sure.
and then I just multiplied the top by -5.
Sure. Yeah. So for you, that made more sense.
Yeah.
The good news is that can work just fine.
Okay.
That can work just fine. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Hey guys, listen up. You've had a chance to think and pair and share about what you think is the better method. If you haven't already, please try to use that better method to solve the system, okay? I know some of you have already gotten started on that. Please, if you haven't already finished it, please finish it. And if you haven't started, get started on using that method. And I'm going to show you a ton of stuff about what you could do with this. Hopefully expand your thinking just a little bit. Ready? You need some help, work together. You can ask me to. So Trevor, this is where you pick up your pencil. And what did you land on? Did you land on substitution or elimination? So, okay. So get started trying to do that. What I would encourage you to do, so like you don't have a complete answer to number 1 because for number 1 you need to have a D and a C. I see that you've only solved for a D. I think you and Noah should be talking now. Noah got -40 now. So instead of like just moving on to number 2 and possibly making the same sort of mistake,
And then to figure out which one is not like.
I got like 1 second, and I was like,
I was excited to him.
please try to progress and succeed or fail, but don't just sit.
He was, I was explaining it to him.
Of course you can. Okay, I'll come back around, Chase.
I guess you're right.
Yep. Yes, you would do that. Absolutely, you would do that. How? Oh, no. It's just oh, you know what? Something seems off here. I'm assuming that you took this to the other side. Even substitute here. Okay, and where did the C go? Yeah, but so remember the only way that you can substitute one thing for another is if you have equivalent substitutes. So you're telling me, so by you putting this in place of C, you're telling me that C equals negative G plus 9. And looking at this, I would say that C is not equal to negative G plus 9. Yeah, so you brought this over, so when you bring this over, what you're saying is C minus D plus 9 equals 0. So in order to substitute, you take this back over and this over. Now C equals positive D minus 9. Yeah. Get the C or the D, and I think your idea of trying to get the C by itself, I think that was right.
Where did you go?
Yeah, so of course that like filters through all the rest of it.
So I'm confused. I just don't know how to start it because, like, for this one with elimination, we added these ones.
And are you thinking elimination is the right way to go?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Hey guys, let's do this. Can I give you a fairly detailed tour of some of the things you could do?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna write a bunch of stuff, and I might do some erasings so I have room to do some other things. But I don't know, if you're a visual person, this might really help. Excuse me. So some of you that think you're veterans that are like, I'm really good at this, you might be surprised and say, whoa, there's some stuff I didn't even think about that might help you. And for those that are feeling lost or stuck, you should get some help here too. So please, let me help you if you're struggling. So if you decided to do substitution, I think that is a fine method to use. So here's how substitution could look. In order to substitute, the only way you can substitute is if you have two different expressions that are equal, right? They have to be of equal value. It's got to be macaroni and sauerkraut. It can't be macaroni and 17 large pizzas, right? There's different value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my two equations, and I'm going to notice that this top row, this top equation, would be very easy for me to get one of those two variables by itself. Do you see how I could get the C by itself very easily?
Yes.
Or maybe even the D by itself, whichever I chose?
Yeah.
Of the C and the D, which one would be the easier to get all by itself?
C.
C. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to add D to both sides, and I'm going to get C equals positive D minus 9, or you could have negative 9 plus D. So I just took that top row, and I said, you know what? I want to get the C by itself. The reason why I would want to get the C by itself is so that I can then use that to help me substitute. Okay? So in order to substitute, like you were kind of like stuck on the starting line. In order to substitute, you need to have one of the two variables all by itself. And I would encourage you to do the easiest possible way to get there. That's why I picked the one I picked. Then, once you have done that, then in the other equation, you can replace that C with whatever the C is actually equal to. So notice how in that second line, the C is now out of the equation. I substituted the C right out of the game. What is the only player I can put back in C's place? You're making me really nervous. Can you answer? Okay. So the only thing you can put in place of the C is what the C is equal to. So what is the C equal to?
D minus 9.
So I can replace the C with D minus 9. I hope this is coming full circle for you. Do you see how this is a substitution? It's truly, I removed something from the equation, and in its place I put something equivalent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So try not to let the fact that it's a math class confuse you. It's substitution. Just like, God forbid, I rarely get sick, but if I were to get really sick, I would leave the classroom, and who would come in my place? A substitute. And hopefully the substitute wouldn't come in here and try and teach you about watercolor painting. Get some Bob Ross, yeah. But unfortunately, when it came time for the Algebra 1 final exam, you'd say, well, I learned something about watercolor painting, but I don't know how to solve an equation anymore. That'd be a problem, right? Hopefully the substitute would come in and do similar things to what I've been doing. Therefore, it'd be an equal trade, right? Okay. So, do you all see how the substitution will often use a distributive property? Okay. So the 5 would get distributed. So you'd get 5D minus 45 equals 3D minus 35. And now we're kind of down to one of those more typical equations we've seen. Would y'all be okay if I just subtracted 3D? So do some simplifying here. So that would give me 2D minus 45 equals negative 35. What would be another good step? What do you think, Noah?
Plus 45.
Yeah, let's go plus 45 to both sides. So that would give me 2D equals positive 10. What would be kind of the final step here? Divided by 2, this gives me D equals 5. Would you agree with me that I'm only halfway done?
Yes.
How do I get the C to go with the D? And you have several options. You have the red option. You have the yellow. Please stop talking because you're going to miss something really useful here. You have a red, a yellow, and a purple option as far as equations you could use to get the C. Of those three, which would be the easiest?
Yellow.
Purple. Doesn't the purple already have the C all by itself? So this is all you'd really have to do. C equals 5 minus 9, right? Because D is 5. And so that's negative 4. So my answer would be negative 4, comma 5. This is one way to do it. This is not the only way you could do it. This is one way. Can I show you an elimination version of this? I might even show you several of them. I'm going to erase this unless somebody wants me to not. Okay, let me show you a different version. Let's say I was really hung up on elimination. Hey, when you talk, it really is distracting to me. If you guys could stop. Thank you. So, did y'all notice how if you were going to do elimination, things are not lined up very well? In order to do elimination, the C's need to be lined up, which they are, but also the equal signs have to be lined up, and they are not. The D's aren't really lined up either, so I'd have to do some rearranging to do this. And this is kind of what Anya was getting at, and I think this is a fine way to do it. Anya, did you bring the 3D over to the left?
Yes.
Okay, this would be one way to do this. I could rewrite as C minus D equals negative 9, and then I could just write it as 5C minus 3D equals negative 35. I've just subtracted that 3D over from the right to the left. And notice with that one move, this looks a lot like an elimination setup, doesn't it?
Yes.
So you could have done this. This is what Anya did. So Anya, I'm kind of curious. Clearly there's no pattern of opposites, right? What did you do to create the pattern of opposites?
I multiplied negative 5 to the top one.
Negative 5 times the top?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll work. So here's how I usually will do that. I'll just say I'm going to multiply by negative 5, and then I'm going to write the answer down below. So that would be negative 5C plus 5D equals positive 45. The 3D didn't go anywhere. It's right there.
Right.
So this right here, Mason, is the result of Anya saying she wanted to multiply negative 5 times the top row. I think you're getting the second and the top row mixed up.
Yes.
Okay? So if you multiply that top row by negative 5, you get the red row. Okay? And then we add, and we get 0, 2D equals 10. And look, we're in the same place instantly, aren't we? Divide by 2, and we get D is equal to 5. That's exactly what we got when we did substitution. You could always then take this and plug it back in and get the C equals negative 4. So I would maybe do C minus 5 equals negative 9. I would then add 5 to both sides. C equals negative 4. And there's the exact same answer, even though I used a completely different approach. I used elimination instead of substitution. And couldn't it be argued that this was even easier than substitution? This wasn't that bad. I think you really could go either way here. Question, Mason.
I also got 10 over 2, but then what did you do from there? That's 5.
10 divided by 2 is 5. And then I plugged in, right?
Actually, somehow I got 15 over 2.
Okay, we can look at your work in a second if you'd like. So you guys have had a little experience considering what would be the better method to use. Would you please use that same experience on number 2? Would you please try to solve that system using whatever method you think is best? Let me look at your. So I know that elimination is kind of newer, and so maybe you're not totally up to speed, and that's okay. Did anybody come to the conclusion that substitution is a tad unpleasant on this one?
I didn't
Can it, no, listen. Shh. Listen, don't speak. Can anyone use just one single word to describe why substitution is unpleasant here? One word.
Work. Hard.
Long.
Work.
Elimination works better.
Opposites.
You know, you want to hear what I would say?
Water.
Fractions.
Oh.
So think about it.
I ran into.
So guys, please hear me out. Can I give you some advice to make this easier for you? Check this out. If I tried to solve the top one, say for y, this is what would happen. I would have to subtract the 2x over, which is no big deal, but then what would I have to do to get the y all the way by itself? And then I'm just thinking ahead to the idea that I'm going to have to substitute in negative 10 elevenths minus 2 elevenths x in for the y in the other equation. Does this seem like a recipe for difficulty?
Yes.
10 elevenths, 2 elevenths. I mean, really?
That's what
Can't you just
to me.
manipulate the other equation?
Hang on. I can't hear Sasha. Please. Let me put it this way. We're going to finish well, and if that means we go till 3:20, then so be it. I'm not kidding. You need to be more focused. Don't use excuses. Be focused. Sasha, could you say that again?
I said, can't you just manipulate the other equation?
Let's try it. So what do you want to solve for in the other one?
I solved for y.
Okay, so if you solve for y, you'd get 4y equals 22 minus 5x, and then you divide by 4. So that would be y equals 22 fourths, that's 11 halves, minus 5 fourths x. I still see a bunch of fractions there that if I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. So I have a way that we could use that is going to involve no fractions at all, and it's elimination. Okay, so let me help. Those that have ears to hear and eyes to see, see and hear. None of which involves your mouth. Seriously. Pay attention, and if you have a question, raise your hand. I would love to answer it, because it might be a really great question. In order to use what I feel is the better of the two methods, you're going to have to create the pattern of opposites, because right now you've got a 2x and a 5x, not opposites, and you've got an 11y and a 4y, not opposites. The best way to do this, I think, is to notice, I'm going to use the smaller numbers, the 2 and the 5. If I were to multiply the top equation by a certain number and the bottom equation by a different number, I'm going to be able to have a perfect pattern of opposites. And I'm going to give you the first one. I'm going to propose that we multiply the top equation by negative 5. Where on earth would I get that? What do you see, Anya?
Because if you multiply the bottom one by 2, then it's negative 10, and then just positive.
I'll get a negative 10, and the bottom will get
Positive.
a 10. So here's technically where I actually got my number from. I got it from right there. That 5. I want to multiply the top equation by that very same 5. And then Anya mentioned a 2. Where on earth would she have gotten that 2 from? Right there. So if I multiply the top by the bottom number and the bottom by the top number and take care of my positives and negatives, I'll have what I want. So I'm going to multiply the top by negative 5, the bottom one by 2. When I do this, I get negative 10x minus 55y equals 50. Oops. That's the top row. And the bottom row would be positive 10x plus 8y equals 44. Please notice how I multiplied everything in the equations by the negative 5 or the 2, not just one of the select terms. So do y'all see the pattern of opposites now? So when I try to complete my pattern of opposites, I add to eliminate. Do you guys see how the x's will just eliminate right out? So that's gone. That's a 0. What's negative 55y plus 8y? There we go. Negative 47y. 50 plus 44. It's looking pretty ugly here until you divide and you realize that 94 divided by negative 47 actually works out nicely. What is it? Negative 2, right? So y is negative 2. And as you know, I'm only halfway done. how do I get the x to go with that y? Plug in. I've got 4 options, don't I? I've got a blue equation, I've got an orange equation, I've got a red equation, and I've got a green equation. Any of these will work fine because they all relate the x and the y in the same way. What do you think is best? What do you think, Ray?
Orange.
Orange is best? I'd say orange or blue make a lot of sense, and I think orange is great. So let's do orange. So we're going to plug in. So the orange would be 5x plus 4 times negative 2 equals 22. And then hopefully we're just down to that more typical solving that we've done in the past. 5x minus 8 equals 22. I would then add 8 to both sides. 5x is equal to 30. What's my final answer? Yep, x equals 6. So my final answer, my intersection point, yep, it's right there. You got it. 6 comma negative, 2. Why did I write a 5? I don't know. There we go. 6 comma negative 2. Okay, so I've already looked ahead. I know that next week's DMR has a system on it. So you're going to get a chance all next week to get better and better at systems. And what we're going to be doing in our regular part of class is more systems. So you're going to get a lot of practice. You're going to get good at it one way or the other, okay? Hope you have a good weekend. Oh, hey, sorry, one more thing. I spaced this out and I saw it like a minute and a half. I want you to hear me out on something. Sorry for the false alarm. Please listen. So y'all know that 1 week from today is your Unit 2 test, right? Yes. 1 week from today, Unit 2 test. It doesn't cover systems. We test that, of course. One thing that we're going to do that's a little bit different than last time. You guys know how there's a WebAssign that's like a review WebAssign and it's bigger than the typical WebAssign? Last unit we made it optional. This unit we're going to make it not optional. It's going to be taken for a grade, but with one caveat. It's going to be counted for a grade, but you don't have to submit a picture for it because it would be a lot of pictures. So an encouragement to you over the next week or so, if you think, hey, I probably should get a little extra work in on math, open up that large review assignment and get started.
Is it on Schoology?
It's on Schoology and it's on WebAssign. Yep, it is. All right, thank you. See you guys.
So then if we need to retake